Good day, everyone. Today I will be presenting my proposed study title, The Relationship Between Academic Stress and Sleep Quality Among University students in Malaysia. Now, students are usually very familiar with two things. One is deadline and not getting enough sleep. And sometimes, even after closing the laptop, our brain is still wide awake, thinking, did I submit the assignments? And how am I going to finish it by the deadline? And this made me curious about whether students who experience higher academic stress also experience poor sleep quality. And in this presentation, I will explain a few things: the research problems, previous studies, and theoretical framework, proposed methodology, ethical consideration, and how this research may benefit university students. Let me begin with a quick question. Have you ever been extremely tired or gone to bed and suddenly you decided to think it was the perfect time to remember all your unfinished assignment? Academic pressure does not simply disappear when classes ends. Students may continue worrying about it, worrying about examinations, deadlines, presentations, grades, and future expectations. And at the same time, poor sleep can make it even harder to concentrate, manage emotions, and stay awake during lectures, which is not definitely not right, but especially when the lecturer is starts asking questions. These may create a cycle. Academic stress may disturb students' sleep, while poor sleep can, makes task even more stressful the following day. And therefore, the students propose to investigate the relationship between academic students and, academic stress and sleep quality. Before moving further, let's quickly look at the two main concepts in this study. The first is academic stress. This happens when students feel that their academic demands are not greater than their ability or resources to manage them. For example, having one assignment may feel manageable. However, having three assignments or two presentation and an examination in the same week may feel like, I mean, the university is testing more than just academic knowledge. And the second concept is also our sleep quality. Sleep quality is not only about how many hours someone sleeps. It also includes how long it takes to fall asleep, how often the person wakes up, and how stressful the sleep feels, and how even well they function the next day. And person may sleep for 7 hours, but still, I think still wake up feeling as though they fought a battle during the night. Okay, so this study is guided by Lazarus and Folkman's transitional model of stress and coping. This model explains that stress is not only caused by the situation itself. It also depends on how a person views the situation and whether they believe they can cope with it. For an example, imagine two students receiving the same assignments with the same deadline. One student may think, okay, I understand, I can manage this, okay, this is easy, and the other may think this is impossible to do. I mean, I don't know where to begin, even though the same assignments are the same. I mean, uh, assignments are the same and the deadlines even are the same, but their reaction may be completely different. When students see academic demands as threatening and believe they do not have enough time, skills, or support, their stress may increase, and this stress may lead to worrying and overthinking at night, which can interfere with sleep. So, however, because this is a you know correlational study, it can only identify a relationship. I mean, it cannot prove the academic stress directly causes poor sleep. Okay, the main research question is academic stress significantly related to sleep quality among university students in Malaysia? The study has three objects. First, it aims to determine the level of academic stress among university students. Second, it aims to identify the students' level of sleep quality. And finally, it aims to examine whether the there is a significant relationship between academic stress and sleep quality. So the proposed hypothesis is that higher academic stress will be significantly associated with poor sleep quality. In simple terms, the more stressed students feel about their universities, the more likely they maybe experience difficulty sleeping. Some students can sleep through almost everything, but however the study expects to find an overall pattern across the participants. Previous studies suggest that stress and sleep are meaningfully connected. Gardini and colleagues conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis involving 34 students and more than 10,000 undergrad students. And they found the moderate relationship of approximately 0.39 between stress and poor sleep quality. This means the stress and sleep are related, but they are not exactly the same experience. The strength of this relationship was also different across studies. This may be because students came from different countries, cultures, academic programs, and educational environment. And research involving Malaysian students has also shown that poor sleep quality is a genuine concern. Therefore, this topic is simply based on students saying, "I'm tired." There is research evidence showing that stress and sleep difficulties may be connected. However, more evidence is still needed within the wider Malaysian university population. At this point, you may be wondering if previous researchers have already studied stress and sleep, why study it again? This is a fair question though, but the proposed research gap is mainly related to the population and context. Many Malaysian studies have, focused on specific groups such as medical, dental, or mm, health science students. These students may experience particular academic demands such as clinical training and intense examinations. However, the students from business, psychology, education, engineering, and other programs may have different experiences. Therefore, the study proposes to include students from different academic programs and years of study. This may provide a broader understanding of academic stress and sleep quality among Malaysian university students. The finding could, help universities improve counseling service, stress management program, and sleep health education. So the proposed study will use a quantitative, cross-sectional, and correlational research design. The study sounds like a collection of academic words, but let me explain them simply. Quantitative quantitative means that the study will collect numerical data using questionnaires. Cross-sectional means that the data will be collected at one particular point in time. In other words, participants will not need to complete questionnaires for the next 10 years, which I'm sure they will appreciate. And correlational means the research will examine whether academic stress and sleep quality are related without manipulating uh, either variable. And the proposed sample will include approximately 100 to 150 um, university students aged 18 years and above, and convinces sampling will be used because it is realistic for an undergrad research program or project. Participants may be required through universities announcements, online platforms, and student networks. However, a power analysis should be conducted to confirm the final sample size. Two established questionnaires are proposed for collecting the data. The first is the 10-item perceived stress scale, also known as the PSS-10. It measures how unpredictable, uncontrollable, and overwhelming participants have found their lives during the previous month. A higher score indicates greater perceived stress. And however, there is one important limitation. The PSS-10 measures general stress rather than academic stress specifically. Therefore, before conducting the study, the researcher may consider using an academic specific stress code. And this could ensure that the questionnaire matches the research title more closely. The second instrument is the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, or PSQI. It contains 19 self-rated items and measures areas such as sleep duration, sleep disturbance, sleep efficiency, and daytime functioning. A higher PSQI score represents poor sleep quality. So unlike more tests, a higher score is not necessarily something to celebrate. So basic democratic information, including age, gender, academic program, and year of study, may also be collected. So the research procedure will involve four main stages. First, ethical approval and permission from the uh, relevant institution must be obtained. And second, potential participants will receive an online information sheet explaining the purpose of the study, or what participants involves and their rights. Participants who agree will then complete an informed consent form. Third, they will answer the demographic questions and complete the selected stress and sleep quality questionnaires through an anonymous online survey. And finally, the data will be screened and analyzed. Descriptive statistics such as the mean and the standard deviation will describe the participants' level of stress and sleep quality. Uh, Cronbach's alpha will be used to examine whether the questionnaires demonstrate acceptable internal consistency. And if the data meet the necessary
statistical assumptions, Pearson's correlation will be used. If the assumptions are not met, then Spearman's correlation may be more appropriate. And the researcher will examine both statistical significance and the strength of the relationships, because a result can be statistically significant without being particularly important. Although this is considered a low risk study, ethical protection is still extremely important. Participants will receive clear information and provide informed consent before answering the questionnaires. Participants must be completely voluntary. Nobody should feel forced to participants, simply because a lecturer, classmate, or researcher asked them. And participants should always be allowed to skip questions or withdraw, without any punishment. Their decision must not affect their grades, attendance, or access to university services. And the questionnaires should not collect names, student numbers, or unnecessary identifying information. The collected data must be stored securely and accessed only by the research team. Some questions about stress and sleep may cause mild discomfort. Therefore, participants should be remained that they may stop whenever they wish. And university counseling and student support information should also, be provided at the end of the survey. The study may provide useful evidence, about whether students experiencing greater academic stress also report poorer sleep quality. But this finding could help universities develop stress management workshops, counseling support, and educational programs about healthy sleep habits. So, for example, universities could provide time management support during examination periods, or run awareness programs explaining that uh, sleeping for 3 hours or providing on determination is not a healthy long-term strategy. However, the process study, also has several limitations. First, cross-section design cannot identify which variable occurred first. Therefore, the study cannot prove the academic stress causes poor sleep. And second, the data will be self-reported. So the participants may forget certain details, or answer in a social acceptable way. Third, third is convince a sampling. Convince a sampling may mean that finding do not represent every university student in Malaysia. It means convincing. I mean, convincing the sample may mean that finding these do not represent every universities. I mean, not every university's uh, research will be the same. And other factors, including physical health, screen use, caffeine consumption, and personal problems and academic workload, may also influence sleep quality. So therefore, this result may be interrupted carefully. To conclude this proposed study will examine whether higher academic stress is associated with poorer sleep quality among university students in Malaysia. And this topic is important because both stress and sleep difficulties can affect, a student's concentration, emotional well-being, uh, learning, and daily functioning. And this study is, supported by the transitional model stress and coping, and can realistically be conducted through a low risk online survey. Although the design cannot establish cause and effect, The findings may provide useful Malaysian evidence for counseling services, students' well-being programs, and the academics, support initiatives. Before conducting the study, the researchers should, finalize an academic specific stress instrument, complete a power analysis, obtain permission to use the questionnaires, and receive ethical approval. Overall, university life will probably never be completely stress-free, but deadlines are unlikely to disappear magically. But, however, understanding the connection between academic stress and sleep may help universities, students for more effectively, you know, and this is all my presentation. Thank you all for, listening. Um, I'm, 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 I'm gladful that I did all those. Thank you.